Hi, I'm Allison at Winnie Nature Reserve, and today I'm going to show you some of our educational ambassador bugs. So we have one example of a bug that is an insect and two examples of bugs that are not insects. So our first bug is an insect, and an insect is an organism that has 6 legs, no more, no less, 3 body parts, a head, a thorax, and an abdomen, an exoskeleton, and 2 antennae. So our example of an insect that we have here are called armored darkling beetles. And they have the word dark in their name because they like to be where it's dark. So we often find them underneath rocks or in the little tubes in their tank. They are a desert species of beetle, so they don't need a lot of water. So all of the water that they need, they get from their food, which is usually fruits and vegetables. We feed ours apples, cucumbers, potatoes, some peppers, so lots of different things. They are herbivores, so they're going to be eating fruits and vegetables. And like I said, they get all their water from their fruits and vegetables. Our next species of bug is an ivory millipede. And millipedes are not insects. They have many more than 6 legs, and they have more than 3 body parts. So milli means 1,000, and pede means feet. So their name literally means 1,000 feet. And up until very recently, there hasn't been any millipedes discovered that actually have 1,000 feet. The most ever recorded was 750. But very recently, there is an article that one was discovered with over 1,000 feet. They also have more than 3 body parts. If we take a look, they have stripes all down their body. Those stripes are called segments. So they have a bunch of segments down their body, and they have 2 pairs of legs per segment, so 4 legs per segment. They are herbivores, just like our beetles were, which means they eat fruits and vegetables. So same thing, apples, cucumbers, zucchini, potatoes, things like that. How they're different from our beetles are a desert species. Millipedes like where it's very damp and dark, so underneath fallen logs, under leaf litter, that kind of thing. So we make sure we spray their tanks down as well to keep them nice and damp. Now this is an ivory millipede, so he has black stripes on an ivory colored body. They are not native to Pennsylvania. They are more native to the Florida area. We do have native millipede species in Pennsylvania, the North American millipede. Those can grow up to about 6 inches in length and about as wide as my pinky, so they can get pretty large. There's some millipedes, like tropical millipedes, that can get very large, 1 foot long and as wide as a quarter. So there's some millipedes that can be much bigger. We also have a smaller species of millipede, the bumblebee millipede. They're very similar to the ivory millipede and the North American millipedes we have here in Pennsylvania, but these guys look like a bumblebee. They have black and yellow stripes, just like a bumblebee. They're much smaller, but they live in the same habitat. They eat the same things. They're herbivores. And same thing, they have those segments down their back with 2 pairs of legs per segment, so 4 legs per segment. Thank you for joining me today at the Winnie Palmer Nature Reserve Learning Center barn. I hope you learned a lot about bugs by meeting our educational ambassadors.
Hi, I'm Jen. I'm here at the Winnie Palmer Nature Reserve, and I am standing in front of our bug hotel. And this bug hotel is home to all kinds of insects. But most notably today, we're going to look at bees and wasps, which are all in the same family. And you might know about honeybees. They're really common. But you probably didn't know that we have over 400 different kinds of bees in the state of Pennsylvania. And they're native to this area, and they love to make their nests in places like this. And you can see this beautiful structure has a nice design to it, and it's meant to be really pretty, but it also makes lots of little nooks and crannies for bees to make their home and raise their brood which is their babies. So if you look really closely, you can see that there are lots of little holes in the wood. There are also some sticks here, and there's some bamboo here. And some of them are open, but some of them are filled in with plant matter, like leaves and pieces of grass, and also little bits of dirt. And so we have all of these beautiful gardens here, and the bees that live in our area will go and collect pollen and nectar, and they'll bring it back to these areas, and they'll make little balls of it, and they'll lay an egg on top of it. And then they go and collect mud or plants, and they cap it over, and that baby or the brood will sleep in there for almost an entire year, and in the spring they will hatch again. Well, they will hatch out. And then you can see that some of these little holes where there's mud have little holes inside of them, and that's where a baby bee has already hatched from. And they've chewed their way out, and then they go and collect nectar and pollen, and then they will come and lay an egg, and it completes the cycle. So some of the bees that we have that live in this hotel would be wasps or hornets, but we also have leafcutter bees and mining bees and mason bees, which are really great at pollinating things like apple trees and peaches and plums, all of your favorite fruits. So if you are standing here on a really sunny day, there will be lots of insect and bee activity, and sometimes they land on you, and sometimes they'll search out a new hole. You can see right here, maybe you can't, there's a mason bee, and they're trying to find a little hole to make a little nest so that they can lay the next egg. But it's not scary to stand here when there are lots of bees, because the bees are not aggressive at all. Some of them really aren't capable of stinging you and causing lots of pain. Sometimes they just land on you and they can sort of prick you. It doesn't really feel like much, but most of the time they don't do anything at all. And on a bright sunny day, you'll be able to see this. Hopefully we can get some shots of that in here. But there's lots of different plant material. There's, like I said, mud, and then there's also little bits of leaves, and leafcutter bees will cut a little circle in a leaf, and they'll lay an egg, and they'll roll it up into a little pill, and then they'll stuff it into here. And if you look on the internet, you can see pictures of leafcutter bees carrying little circles of leaves with them. And that is our bee hotel. Hope you enjoyed.
So bugs can live in all places. So what we're going to do now is we're going to look for some of our creepy crawly friends under a log. Now these things don't want us to find them. They like to be where it's quiet and it's dark and it's warm. So when we lift a log from the forest floor, we're going to be unearthing all kinds of decomposers and bugs that eat other bugs and play a very important role in the forest ecosystem, because as they munch and crunch and break all that organic matter down, it becomes the vital nutrients for the soil and for things to grow again. So this is a June beetle. And do you see how it has 6 legs? So this is an insect, because it's an insect. And it probably is growing under that log. And they do fly. You can tell that its wings are forming on its back. And if we look at it with a hand lens, you can see the sticky, textured legs, that allows it to crawl really well.
Now it's upside down.
Because it's upside down. So under a log, it's not just worms, it could be beetles, it could be spiders under there.
At first I thought it was going to be like a red beetle.
Yeah, so we always put whatever we find gently back into the place that we found them. So we're going to gently put it back. So you don't want to always touch anything that's under the log, right? So we have tools that we can carefully lift them, especially if we don't know if they're a stinger or a biter. Who's on your, look what you got. Look what Rose got.
Is it a beetle?
It's a slug.
Oh,
Whoa, I can see its antennae coming out.
So on fallen logs, there's not just creepy crawlies, bugs and things like that, but there's also fungus. Do you see any other plants growing on these?
Some leaves.
Yeah, we got some sprouts, we got some moss, we have mushrooms, so we'll try to eye at that.
An insect will drill a hole into the stem, lay their eggs, and leave. So as the baby eggs hatch and grow, they make this bulge, and it's called an insect gall. Can you say that? Gall? And pretty soon, as the weather warms up, the babies will grow and want to come out of there. So they chew their way out, they'll make a hole, and they come out.
So they're babies?
Yeah, probably aphids, bugs that eat other bugs. Yep. Exactly. And that's why for insects, it's really important to leave some of our gardens up over the winter because it becomes their winter house. So in the spring, there'll be new.
And when they hatch, you'll be able to see a little hole. So they drill a little hole right out. So that's how you know if there's bugs in there or not in there, if there's a little hole drilled for them to get out.
Like, it's kind of like...
Oh, some big juicy wish fishing worms under there.
That one?
Oh, there is a centipede. Centipedes eat other bugs. Do you see it crawling there?
Mm-hmm.
Now watch, because they sting. We don't want to touch that one, because some things will sting. It's a centipede. Oh, there goes some ants. Yeah, he's a fast crawling. Do you see how he's using all of those holes?
Like the hole.
Yeah, I'm sure there are holes that go deep into this log where they live. There's even some moss starting to grow on this log. It's a great house for a decomposer or a detritivore that eats things and breaks them down. In the Palmer Pond, we have lots of things that live here and call it its home. We just saw a turtle, we saw a garter snake, and we saw green frogs and bullfrogs. And they're here because they're making this place their home, but they're also seeking a very valuable food source. All the different kinds of things that would live inside the water that we can't see right now until we take a closer look with a net and see what's living in there become their food.
So a lot of times we call a pond area a bug nursery because a lot of the bugs that live in the water are just in their first stage of life. So they're like baby bugs. So for example, this is our dragonfly nymph. So this is a baby dragonfly, and they spend the first portion of their life looking like this without any wings or water or wings or anything, and they live completely in the water. They're aquatic for their whole life until they're ready to become an adult. Then they'll crawl out on a stick or a branch or a blade of grass. They'll shed that exoskeleton and they'll have their wings and everything they need to live outside of the water. So that's the same with dragonflies, damselflies, mosquitoes. A lot of different flies will do that. Their life cycle starts in the water and then they come out and they're terrestrial. There's also some insects that are completely aquatic for their whole life, like this back swimmer. There's a few different beetles, some snails. They're completely aquatic. They spend their whole life in the water. So our crawling water beetle, our giant water bug, some scuds, which look like tiny, tiny little shrimp. So those things stay in the water their whole life. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna give everybody a net that looks just like this. We're gonna go up to the edge of the water. Do we think we run or walk? Walk. We wanna use very careful feet. This pond is stinky and yucky. We don't want to go swimming today, right? Nope. Go ahead.
Go in another pool, but not in that pool. And if you run, you could accidentally slip in the water.
Exactly, and we don't want wet feet today. So we'll come up to the pond. It might be a little wet, but you find an area.
Try the rock.
Find an area where you know your feet aren't gonna slip in, okay? And we can lean over. Now, if I just go like this, do you think I'm gonna catch anything?
Nope.
No, because the things that live in the pond, they eat all the plants that are in here, or they eat the things that eat the plants. So they're gonna be all in the plants and all in the gunk and everything, okay?
See a bug that's like standing in the water.
There are, that's a water strider. So they're the ones that walk on the water. So we're gonna take our net and we're gonna move it around all in the plants. It is pretty dirty. And then we bring it up.
Whoa, there's like black things.
And we take a look. Oh, we got some eggs.
Whoa, whoa.
They are toad eggs. So we're gonna take our net, we're gonna bring it over, to our bin of water. Now, do you think we just take this and dump it in?
No.
No, because we want to keep it clean. So we have our tools. So we're going to get a back swimmer out of there.
And I always have to put water in here because these are aquatic bugs. So they need the water because some of them
Is that a
breathe
baby toad?
with gills.
That is a back swimmer. So it's a type of insect that lives its whole life in the water. And these ones will sting. So we want to be careful touching those.
Yeah, they have a mouth part that comes out and they'll pierce your skin and try to suck out your insides because that's how they do. That's how they get their food for their prey. They suck out their insides. So some of these bugs are crazy. But look down in. Can you see it through the magnifying top?
Oh, that's cool.
Do you see how it's moving its legs? And it actually crawls out of the water onto a blade of grass and rubs its legs and makes the sound of a cricket.
Guys, let me see. He doesn't have legs yet, but right off the bat, he's going to sprout legs right from the base of his tail. He'll sprout his back legs, and then his front legs, and then he'll lose his tail and become a frog.
Nymphs. So when aquatic bugs, when they lay their eggs, they hatch into a nymph and then become sometimes they're either a nymph, an egg, nymph, and adult, like the dragonfly. So they have a short life cycle. So this is a dragonfly that's going to become beautiful eventually with those big long wings. But right now, they're preying on everything in that pond. They don't have, how do you think they move in that water?
I don't know.
So they suck water through their mouth and they shoot it through their behind like a jet boat. And that's how they move as predators. If you look really closely in this jar, you'll see their feathery gills moving. Just like fish use gills to breathe in the water, so do mayflies. And so they move their gills to grab the oxygen out of the water.
As you saw, I took my net, I looked for things that were moving, I carefully put them in the water. Now, what do you think we do with everything that's in our net?
Put it back. Put it back.
Put it back in the water, because I might have missed some bugs. We're gonna put the eggs back so that they hatch, all right? So I bring it over. Well, we're gonna let them alone. If we touch them, we wanna make sure they'll hatch. So I come back over, empty it out, swish it out, and then I can take some more scoops, all right?
Thanks for exploring the world of bugs with us at Winnie Palmer Nature Reserve. We hope you come visit and explore bugs in your own backyard.